I'm Riggs Eckelberry, co-founder, chairman, CEO of Origin Clear. The government needs to continue to provide a lot of abundant, clean water. But what happens to it after it's used, when it's dirty? Do you know that 80% of all sewage is never treated? It's just dumped. That leads to water scarcity, but it also leads to a lot of disease and pollution, the ocean turning into something horrible. At the same time, the cities and counties are not getting the funding they need to really treat the water, and so they can't keep up. The solution is let the people who use the water clean the water. Water on demand is investment in actual capital assets that earn income. Sign up to hear my weekly briefing every Thursday night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Just put oc.gold/CEO in your browser, register for the briefing, and I look forward to hearing more from you.
And good evening, everyone. Another exciting CEO briefing, action-packed. I see a lot of people are arriving. Very happy to see you all. So I'm going to just keep right on trucking here. Wow. August 25th is the last briefing of August, and then we'll be on the next one is the 1st. And we are talking about the new beneficial income asset water, which is becoming increasingly recognized as something that is worth something, that is no longer a government monopoly, and that everyday investors through Origin Clear can invest in. Super exciting. And we have lots of developments. I'm going to start by just showing you our latest article in Midwest Today. Here we go, 10 questions. And this is kind of sneaky. We, ask you questions about this, that, and the other thing. And of course, we get to put our little agenda in there. And enough of that gets out there, it sort of gets the word out. So how can homes use water efficiently? Can you irrigate home gardens, drought-conscious households? We have a wonderful writer, Tessa Maurer, who puts these together. And so it's, yes, I actually did not write this, I have to say. However, we then slip into our own messaging right here that, as I always say, that central systems are not designed for recycling. You want to basically deal with the fact that we have to treat the water right at the point where it's made dirty to lessen the burden on its central infrastructure and, of course, recycle. And again, more points about agriculture, irrigation, modernizing, and so forth. And then we talk about water filtration, where talking about this upcoming major rollout of whole hotel water purification. And it's very exciting. Of course, it's taken forever. You've been hearing about it for the longest time. And in fact, we're even working on a second hotel in the same chain, while the first one is not even publicly launched for us. But nonetheless, it's happening. And what this particular chain is very, very focused on is the fact that these forever chemicals are becoming a big, big deal, and they want to get ahead of it. And so this system ensures that everything in the hotel is free of these forever chemicals. It's not cheap, but it's a major point of differentiation for a luxury hotel. And then they also wanted to know about, can you run an event from mobile water systems? And of course, we can do that where we have containerized military systems. We're rolling some out right now. And it's about 12,500 gallons per day, where for an event, you might have 2,000 people. Fun fact, and it's the kind of stuff we're delivering. Okay, and then just to finish here, the fact about all this water shortage is the fact that agriculture and industry, primarily agriculture, use most of the water. It's not the poor people in LA that are the problem. It's the very water-intensive crops in the Imperial Valley. And I'm not saying we're stuck with it, but that's the real problem. But there is a way to handle it, again, through recycling and through treating it on the site at the point of use. So, and of course, even if we cannot do it ourselves, we can encourage local industry and agriculture to do so, and we can consider investing in such projects. Hint, hint. All right. Next piece of news is really interesting. It's shocking. I'm going to show you these rivers as they're seen from outer space, and I think it's going to blow your mind. So let's take a look here. I'm going to go right to the top here, and you'll see here's the Colorado River, and this will show you Lake Mead. Look at that. That's the current state. This is what it was. in July 2000. And here's how it is. It's pretty scary. It's pretty scary. Let's take a look here at, this is Lake Mead itself. Let's take a look here. Again, Lake Mead shrinking right down. And we can see that at the very bottom here is the Hoover Dam. And then the Yangtze River, which is vastly important to China, because they use hydropower for about 80% of electricity in the province of 84 million people. So that's huge. So this, again, shows you how it's dwindling, more sandbanks. The Rhine River is in trouble. Now the Rhine, basically, if they get down to about 40 centimeters on the Rhine, they won't even bother shipping. Now they're at 32. So here's how it was, and here's how it is. And you see these sandbanks. And basically, any level less than 75 centimeters means you have to reduce your load to about 30%. So that's a big deal because the Rhine is a major shipping thoroughfare. Okay, River Po, which a tremendous amount of people depend upon. 30% of Italy's food is produced in this river. And once again, we see here devastating dryness. The Loire in France at Saumur. Saumur is where the military school is located. Their West Point is called Saumur. And here we go. Now, the Loire always has sandbanks, you can tell. It's not an incredibly navigable river, but it cools 4 nuclear power plants. And that's why it's critical. The Danube is actually Europe's longest river. It passes through 10 countries, and they have a problem. You can see here, almost no sandbanks here, very, very shallow. And it's cut down tourism, and the Hungarian part, which is the shallowest, I guess, can only be navigated without cargo. What's the point of that, right? So that gives you a sense of what's going on here. And, I'm not going to get into why it's happening. These are, of course, the watersheds, the upstream watersheds are very, very dry, but it's creating a problem, right? I've been talking to you about how municipalities aren't keeping up with their water conveyance, how water is being taken from one place to another. Water companies in England will take 2,000 years to replace their pipe network. That's not just England, by the way. Most European countries replace their pipes at about 0.5% a year, and that is not enough. Enormous amounts they're losing 1 trillion liters of water each year in England and Wales alone. And we can see here that on the Severn here, it's something like almost 3,000 years to replace the pipes. This is why we are seeing a growth in our pump station business, because those pump stations are part of the system. The pipes themselves they're just pipes, no big deal. But we build the vertical pump stations that connect them so that they can go up hills, basically. So we'll be talking more about how this is a growing business for us. For now, the cities just, as you can tell, just aren't keeping up. It's a huge amount of water loss, typically up to 30% of water loss. And in the middle of droughts, it's pretty ridiculous, isn't it? Okay, so I promised you some reports from Dan Early. He's got 2 clips. One is a walk around of the Veriskid 10,000 gallon per day membrane bioreactor system. One's for a housing development, and the other one is for a mobile home park. The other one is for a U.S. assembly plant. I'm not going to say what kind of assembly plant. It's very, 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 very famous. It's also a U.S. government international location. Those are embassies that we do. And finally, a power plant. Let's take a look, first of all, at the Avera skid walk around that he did.
It's about 5:30 p.m. on Thursday, August the 18th, 2022. I am on the yard at Progressive Water Treatment in McKinney, Texas. Just want to give a quick walk around of current systems in production. You will notice that we have 3 container systems here on the yard. The first 2 containers are basically identical Skid 10K MBR units. Those are 10,000 gallon per day advanced bioreactor, advanced wastewater treatment units. These are our plug-and-play wastewater treatment systems. They are in 40-foot high cube containers with a structural plastic tank inside, compartmentalized, provides all the subunit processes. These are designed for delivery on a project site, and you will drop them, plug in your influent pipe, plug in your outlet discharge pipe, make a power connection, and the units are ready for commissioning. The unit here's the equipment room. This is integral to the Skid system. This one is still in the latter stages of final assembly, but this is the typical equipment room that you would see that comes with the system. This is why it is a plug-and-play solution. This gives us the ability, like I said, to connect the inlet pipe, connect the outlet pipe, connect the power connection, fill it up with water, and hit the start button, and it's ready to go. So it treats 10,000 gallons per day of domestic wastewater to a tertiary level, which that means you are less than 10 milligram per liter BOD, 10 milligram per liter TSS, and with disinfection through that Hallett UV disinfection system, the treated water out of this is perfectly suitable for secondary reuse, such as side irrigation, landscape irrigation, landscape water feature replenishment, reflush if you want to send it in purple pipe it and send it back into a facility. So this gives you a sense of what the Skid 10K MBR unit looks like. These are part of the MBR product line, the Skid product line. So we have treatment units in the 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, and 25,000 gallon per day range.
And then here's the second one. This is systems and final assembly for that at Progressive Water Treatment. Now, before we move on here, just to go back to this Skid, Dan was talking about tertiary levels of treatment. That third level, that third point is where you remove the nitrates. It is not yet potable level. And you mentioned a certain level of BOD. That's biological oxygen demand. That is the amount of oxygen required to remove waste organic matter. So the more it is dirty, the more oxygen it will need to clean itself out. And that's basically a measure of pollution of the system. He also mentioned TSS, which is total suspended solids. Those are the visible cloud of stuff. And of course, dissolved solids is the stuff you can't see, like the forever chemicals. So these units here are not designed to generate potable water. They're designed to treat the water and then send it either into the groundwater, as irrigation to water lawns and so forth, or send them to the municipality as treated water. Okay, the next one here then is this, you will see, is now potable water. Let's take a look here.
It is about 5:30 p.m. Central Time on August the 17th, 2022, and I am in the finished assembly or final assembly area at Progressive Water Treatment located in McKinney, Texas. And I'm going to give you a quick walk around of current progress underway of things that are in final assembly and moving towards shipment to the end user. What we have here in front of us is a dual train ultrafiltration module. This is a system that is being manufactured for an electric vehicle company, name withheld for confidentiality reasons. But this gives you an example of the complexity of some of these systems, and also gives you a glimpse into the craftsmanship and the engineering that goes into manufacturing these UF filtration modules. This system is designed to take production wastewater, to filter it and to clean it so that they can then recycle it for secondary purposes in their facility. So a very nice example of a UF system as fabricated by the technicians and the fabricators at Progressive Water Treatment. The next system, while not overly complex, is a chemical feed system and an irrigation skid for an irrigation water reuse system for a U.S. Embassy facility. Progressive Water Treatment and its sister division of Modular Water Systems are actively supporting and delivering both potable water drinking systems and advanced wastewater recycling, reuse, and reclamation systems to the U.S. Department of State for embassy facilities overseas. Interestingly, I'd like to make it known that we are actively working on about maybe 15 current embassy and consulate facilities, and have serviced about 10 prior to that. This is becoming a very, very good book of business for the company. We have another chemical skid system, bulk chemical feed system for a water treatment plant. This right here is a reverse osmosis system, a dual train, dual pass RO system being fabricated for another company. So for those that don't understand, you have ultrafiltration, microfiltration, nanofiltration, and reverse osmosis. So those are 4 different stages of the typical membrane filtration that you see in the water and wastewater treatment industry. So as you can see, this is an example of the things that are currently in final production in the final assembly area at Progressive Water Treatment.
Well, obviously he was telling you guys more than what I was telling you. One of these systems being for a electric vehicle company, and there's only so many in America, so I'm not going to say more than that. Let's continue here. Here we go. But basically, this is what we're able to do when we treat to the level that are expected from tap water, for example. There's still dissolved solids, but we actually get it all out. Ultrafiltration, activated carbon processes, and reverse osmosis, we can remove it all. That is basically the forever chemicals thing. And as I've been saying, this is where we are going to be putting a system into the hotel-based system. So Coletta wants to know how we can get them in homes. We don't work with homes. And the reason is that's a mass market. And remember that as much as 87% of all water use is agriculture and industry. Now, for the home, just go ahead. This is what we did in our home. We got, for the entire home, we have a system that gets down to 0.2 microns. So it's not, doesn't get rid of all suspended solids. And then but then for the kitchen sink, we have a full reverse osmosis system that takes it all the way down to this level. No forever chemicals. And also the shower heads are a special shower head that removes those forever chemicals, including something called glyphosate. Glyphosate, also called Roundup, is actually present in 80% of all tap water in America. And it is actually a source of brain cancer. So I have a holistic doctor a couple of years ago. He said, get this shower head. So we have the shower head. Anyway, so that's the picture there. And Coletta, thank you. Peace King, thanks for allowing us to be part of this. It's our pleasure. And of course, Neil and Robert and Paul, welcome here. The issue of reusing the waste for fertilizer is a good one. Remember, in October 2019, one of the very last trips, in fact, the very last international trip I did before COVID, I went to Spain, and we had a system where we were helping to create fertilizer and clean water from pig manure. Very effective. We subsequently, that particular vendor they ran into trouble with COVID, and they were not able to restart after they were shut down. But we also decided to not be in the fundamental technology space because what you have to do is not just remove the solids, but you've just removed the forever chemicals. Now the forever chemicals are in the solids. There is some information that, in fact, I can share right now with you about this. NBC News reported on this, that there's a way to remove them, and it's being done with this technology using a solution of lye, and basically that's a really smart concept. So whether it's the electrolysis system that we pioneered in Spain, or it's one of these, you have to do something to neutralize the chemicals in the solids. But you got to do something about it because, unfortunately, these forever chemicals, they really are forever. Most of industry has stopped using them, but they're still there and they're forever there, unfortunately. That's the way it is. Okay. We had a great show earlier this week. In fact, it was yesterday. And it was about almost an hour, but we went ahead and condensed it for you to the most interesting and specific parts. It's got a lot of very good information. So I'm going to go ahead and play it now and enjoy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our first Philanthro Investors Foresight. I am so happy that after a few technology steps, we managed to make it together. And today I have in our first live Philanthro Investors broadcast, not only my personal friend, but CEO of a water philanthropy investing company, Water on Demand and Origin Clear, founder and a lot of years trained in even managed vessels in every single ocean, Mr. Rick Seckelberry. Hello, Rick.
How are you, Ivan?
Very good, and you?
Fantastic. Yeah, it's a beautiful day here in Florida, and I guess you're in Puerto Rico, right?
Yes, I am in Puerto Rico, and the weather is here also is beautiful, and there is a lot of ocean around and a lot of water that we need to take care of and make sure that improves in the condition on the planet.
Thank you very much, Ivan. And we first got together in 2020 when you were looking to expand your philanthropy investors into water. Since then, water's become a perfect storm. Why? Number one, we have tremendous droughts happening in the American West, also Europe. We're seeing the Rhine River and the Danube River, and also the Yangtze River in China, all running dry, and terrible problems as a result of that. We're also seeing that all of the water we drink has something called forever chemicals in it, so that is a health problem. So even in countries where we think we have good water, we have problems. And then the third major problem is that the central infrastructure, again, even in developed countries, is not being funded enough. And so it's more and more local survival to make your water work. And Origin Clear is dedicated to helping people survive better with water.
Yes, and that's exactly what you are saying, Rick, is what I was researching in 2019. Many problems in the world are happening because of not taking care of the water. And I started researching and learning 6,000 kids die from water-related diseases every single day. And then I start learning and learning more. 80% of the water gets released untreated in the planet. And the US only recycles 1%?
We are very in the middle of scarcity. We're treating it like it's abundant. The municipalities are trying their best. There's no question that we have 150,000 plus water systems in this country, and they're trying their best, but they're underfunded. And they have water systems that are leaking, losing water, therefore losing revenue. As much as 20-30% of their water is actually just going into the ground. So that's a terrible problem. And all of this is leading to skyrocketing water rates, which is harming people at the family level, but also corporate level. And so we really, you're right that, it's very similar, Ivan, to what you've done in Equity and Help, which is your housing philanthropy investor program, which is people who could not possibly get a home, now they can. And we're making it possible with Water on Demand, our pay-per-gallon program, for people to survive, primarily businesses and communities, survive even in situations where they didn't think they could. And so we're really becoming something really urgent. For example, we're talking to a group that is organizing a homeless housing development, and they want to have the water system, but they would like us to fund it and then just charge them by the gallon. Otherwise, they'll have a very hard time building this housing development. So this is becoming really a critical thing. And fortunately, this program of ours is funded by everyday investors, which is super cool, right? So unlimited capital available, not from JP Morgan Capital or from Kleiner Perkins, no, from the world's investors who are the strongest force on earth.
Yes, and that's very interesting, Riggs, because something that I always think about it and share with my friends also on the Philanthropy Investors Network is that every single person in the world use an average of 51 liters per day of water is the amount of water that the person needs. And at the same time, I did more research after we partnered together in 2020, and I learned more about the fact that we have only 21 years of good quality water, like actually supply that can be for the planet, like the planetary water, 21 years with the supply that we have. Do you have more information in relation to that? Because I realized that we are taking from the planet 51 liters of water every day, every person, but what are we doing as human beings to give back that 51 liters or more of water to the planet, even with the money that we earn? Because the water is giving us life, and with our life, we are producing money. But then we are not giving that money back to the water to produce 52 liters of quality water in the planet every day. It makes sense?
Yes, well, there's lots of water, but the percentage that is actually drinkable is very small. And so that's where we really have to think about how are we going to be, it's like there's a tremendous supply of water, there's a tremendous demand, but in the middle of it is making the water drinkable. We're dealing with, really outdated infrastructure that, as you pointed out, does not do any recycling. It just uses it and throws it away. And of course, in some countries, there's no treatment at all, which is why, so much of our water ends up in the ocean, et cetera, completely like a sewer. It's really terrible. There are creative solutions, but those solutions require money. And this is the big realization that we were having in 2020 when you joined us. You remember very well, we were trying to figure out what to do. And we realized it's the money, stupid. If you can fund programs without waiting for the government to raise billions and trillions and all that stuff, just action on the ground, self-help is the solution. And since then, what we have seen is a tremendous amount of business and community users have come along saying, we want to be self-sufficient for water. I'm talking about housing developments, hotels that are really want to make sure that their guests don't get forever chemicals in their food, etc. And travel stops on the highway, campgrounds, trailer parks, all these detached locations that are often off the grid. They're like, hey, we need to have control over our water, otherwise we'll be in deep trouble. But that is an indication of the tremendous need for what's going on here, which is you have to increasingly make sure you're going to be okay with your water supply.
In the world, there is many water problems in the third world countries, but we are hearing of many water problems, even disasters like the Colorado River drying up. What can we do about these problems, Riggs?
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what's happening in the American West. It's terrible because California is a desert, and yet we've created water-intensive crops in the middle of this desert. Now, how are you going to remove it? Those crops bring in $20 billion a year in revenues, and yet it should be barley, not avocados. But this is a tough decision. So there's many players downstream of the big watershed in Colorado, and what's happening is they're kind of pushing each other, and nobody's really cooperating. This is going to be a painful process. What we can do about it is, number one, the water that we do have, let's make sure it's cleaned and recycled. Get more turns, as we call it, out of the water. When a brewery, makes a liter of beer, they're using, a lot more water to make that liter of beer. Now they need to be able to use that water again, even if it's only just to wash down the equipment or whatever. And that is going to make a big difference. Israel, which is in a desert, and they understood this, they built their system after World War II to be highly recycling intensive. Almost 90% of their water is recycled. We have a much older water system in America that it's not going to be fixed. We're not going to make, if you're in LA, the water runs from Glendale down to Santa Monica to be treated. It's not going to go back up to Glendale. It's going to go into the ocean. And that's not going to change. But if you put it in a private system in Glendale to treat the water with on the meter, just like as if you're paying the city, then you're able to reuse it. And then the city's grateful because they don't have to treat that water. It's a win-win for everybody. And it enables true access for everyone to water. So recycling is key. And treating all that water is also key. We got to stop being so wasteful. There is plentiful rain in Mississippi, for example. So, yeah, well, we don't have to recycle. We're okay. We're good. Well, no, actually, you should be treating the water and charging the groundwater, recharging the aquifers, because otherwise it's going to end up to a point where it could take 600 years to recharge that aquifer. It goes away forever. Now, people talk about, well, we'll just use desalination. The problem with desalination is it's very energy intensive, and we have an energy problem. So you start playing those games. There are some really good creative solutions, but the beginning, it all starts, as you say, with taking care of the water that we do have, making sure we clean it, and making sure we recycle it. And Origin Clear is here to fund that through our program called Water on Demand. Water on Demand enables a business or a community to just say, okay, I'm going to sign a document, and automatically I'm going to get a system show up, fully maintained. I pay by the usage, and I don't have to come up with capital and so forth. And it's funded by America's investors, who then get a return on their investment, and everybody's happy. So that's a very solid approach that we're actually planning to expand out to other countries. You're going to be touring South America soon, and that's going to be very, very interesting because South America has big water challenges. We know that. And again, they should be fine because there's lots of rain in South America, but there's, a problem with managing the water. So we just got to become much better at it. And by helping with the capital coming from America's investors, that's where Origin Clear can become a key player, just as your own housing philanthropy investors become a key player for people who can't get it otherwise.
There is a great deal of concern about forever chemicals. And how is Origin Clear, with your own vision, which I call it amazing, is helping?
Our chief engineer, Dan Early, he's showing us a system that combines ultrafiltration, reverse osmosis, and nanofiltration. That triple combination, there's nothing gets past it. It's clean. So we're routinely delivering that. We know how to do it, and we're doing it for businesses. It's no secret that we have a project with a hotel that we can't yet say which one, but they're about to launch it publicly, that treats all the water going into the hotel without any forever chemicals. And that chain has made an internal decision like, you know what? We've got to get ahead of this problem. We have to be able to tell our guests, the water you drink, the water that goes into making the spaghetti at the restaurant, all of it is going to be free of forever chemicals. They want to be leaders. And Origin Clear is working with those leaders. I feel quite sure it's going to be eventually quite common. Now, we don't work at the level of the home because that's a mass market. Where we really think the most change can occur is at the level of businesses and communities. Remember that more than 80% of all water use is by industry and agriculture, right? So that's where the real change can happen. And we are delivering those standards every single day. So I love that we're doing this because people need to be sheltered from these toxins.
Tell me a little bit more. How can I connect? Because I invest in gold, I invest in real estate, I invest in I have car dealerships with my family, so I invest in cars. How does it work that this amazing life pureness is an asset or can be an asset?
Well, Isn't it ironic that the most important commodity out there, which is water, is actually not considered an asset for commodity investing purposes, right? And why is that? It's because we let the government take care of it. The government takes care of the water, and I open the faucet, the water comes, I flush the toilet, the water goes away, everything's fine. And so it's never developed itself as an actual real market. And that's bad because these days we can't rely on the government anymore. Why? It's not because government's bad, it's because we've learned that the government can't take care of all of us. It's just not able to do it. It will never do it. For example, if I want to double the water treatment capacity in this county, where do I put the facility? It's all built up. And where do I find the $10, $20 billion to do it? So at this point, we have to think of how do we make water an investable asset so that it is propelled by the world's investors who number in the millions, small and large. And with that, all of a sudden, it becomes something, there's a good saying is what you push, you get, right? So if you push water investment, you get water investment, and therefore good projects can be funded. So I really think that it's been that we have a transition going on where water is coming out of government. You still have a right to water. People think that we're saying, oh no, we're like Nestle, we're going to take the water and bottle it and take it away from you. No. We're treating the water that you're supposed to have, and we're just making sure that it's clean, that it's available, that there's lots of it, that there's no forever chemicals, so that you can use it. And that makes it an asset. That pure water becomes an asset, and then we've securitized it. We've created a security around it that then generates income for the investor and funds these things for the user. And I think that's an essential step. And we're not the only people in the water industry doing these pay-per-gallon programs, but we're the only ones doing it with access by the regular investor. That's the big difference, and I think that's huge.
That's amazing, Riggs. Well, I only have to say thank you for your time, for being with us, and for the last 2 years of our relation, and for continued trusting in Philanthro investors for the future. And, as you always tell me, let's break a leg.
Break a leg, right on. Well, let's do that. And I wanted to thank you especially for your amazing support. I know that you have been talking about us a lot. Your personal commitment is huge. So thank you to you and your whole team.
Thank you, Riggs. And thank you, friends, for joining us. And let's have a wonderful rest of the week and an amazing weekend. Thank you, Riggs. Bye, my friend.
Take care. That's an excerpt. You can go to the Ivan Ant's Facebook page and you can watch the entire thing. Very, very interesting. But those are the highlights. And, it's clear that, our mission is so crystallized. And Philanthro Investors has been an amazing amplifier of our message because, frankly, they have international footprint. We don't. And so they're able to go well beyond what we have. And they have been, super, from day one, they're like, we get it. They got it day one. Ivan was looking for a water company that he could get behind because he was having done real estate very successfully, Inc. 500. Okay, now what about water? And in fact, he told us that he had a bad experience with one water company, didn't work out, and then it's an interesting story that he actually ran into me in a CEO briefing, just like this one. And then he told his CEO, Artie Marin, hey, there's this guy Riggs who's got a company. And Artie goes, I know Riggs. It turns out that we'd known each other for many, many years. Really, kind of a funny story. But the point is that he got it. Artie got it. The whole team there got it. Vendy, George, the whole gang. They just have it together. So they're amazing, and we're truly grateful for them. Okay, let's see what else we've got going on here. All right, so there's a quick update on the commercial pilot. I was supposed to play this last week, but I ran out of time. I have just a little bit of time to play this. And I'm actually going to add some additional comments of what's updated literally as of today. Okay, here we go.
All right, so several things to update the team on. One is a proposal that we sent out for engineering services, which for a large customer in Texas with several locations, together with our partners at Envirogen Technologies. We have sent a proposal of our side of it to Envirogen. They have accepted it as is. I got good help from Mark Mazzoquette preparing that, and from guidance from Tom. So that's being incorporated now into a proposal that Envirogen is going to send forth to their customer. And just to refresh your memory, this is an engineering services basically to do an audit of their multi-site installation and propose a broader, more comprehensive solution. So we hope that this will turn into a multi-site DBOO type opportunity. So we should hear something about this within, maybe a couple of weeks from the customer. I think Envirogen is planning to forward this to the customer by this week. Okay, so that's one update, and it's a successful so far. It's on the right track. Second update. Our friends at Philanthropy Investors referred us to one of their investors who's actually leading a large residential development project in Utah, about 1,500 acres, up to 6,000 residential units. They are looking for a solution for the water side of the project. I've gotten with Dan and Mark. We've had a meeting about it, and we should have a call with this gentleman today. Still to be confirmed, but should be in a few hours. We are confident we can tackle the project to be a very, very large project for us typically. But Dan has figured out an elegant technical solution using our modular water systems. And what we are lacking is, quite frankly, the engineering manpower to be able to pull it off in the deadlines that the client has indicated. So this is not a speculative wish list type project. They are funded. They are in final due diligence on the land. So this is, and they have a budget for the whole project approved and funded, and including for the water part. So I think we would struggle, according to Dan and Mark, we would struggle a little bit on having enough available engineering capacity to tackle the project. I've done some preliminary inquiries with our partners at Envirogen Technologies. They probably could supply that specialized labor to help fulfill our project. So we are, trying to go the next step in this conversation with the customer and see if it's really viable and if the economics clear and all that kind of good stuff. But it's, it's progress there, So that's second. The third commercial update is with our friends in Puebla, Mexico, a jeans washing plant that has a difficulty. They've been forbidden by the regulators that they can't discharge into the public sewer system. And they currently, have all their wastewater trucked away to a central plant, and our friends in Mexico are checking with us whether we can handle that at the point of, in a decentralized way, at the point of discharge at this factory. And it is something that if we could do, would be very good also as a pilot for many other locations in Mexico. As you may know, there's tremendous pollution problem around Puebla. This central plant, which is a private concession for another 30 years plus, they can do it economically. They can serve a radius of something like 15 miles around, but they don't venture much further out. If we create this pilot with them successfully, then it becomes a solution that can be adopted much more widely. So that would be interesting expansion opportunity. I've been working with the engineering stuff again with Dan and Mark. They have already done a preliminary sketch of what our technical approach would be. They're refining. We just got some more data recently, the last few days and over the weekend, about the chemical analysis of the effluent of the plant, so that we can actually be a bit more precise about what our design would be, our technical specifications, and so that I can actually, we can come up with some preliminary pricing. But we're making progress there. And I understand, Riggs, that you've talked with this gentleman in Mexico probably yesterday as well. So I don't know if you have any news there on that other side of the conversation, but I think we'll be ready to get to him about this particular project in Puebla within a few days, 2 or 3 days, something like that. So that's been busy, and I think the connection that Tom made for me with the folks in the engineering is working well. I'm getting good support, and that just makes we're more faster response time to these serious leads. We also have a lot of other leads that don't seem as serious, and I've been busy triaging those things. So we have a fair level of activity going on, and most importantly, 3 things that look promising, and 3 opportunities that would be each of them significant and boding well for future further business development. I don't know if anybody has questions or areas they'd like to discuss, but that's the quick update.
I don't know about you, but I was tremendously distracted by this guy Riggs constantly multitasking during that meeting. It's like, what is this guy doing? To summarize it, we have adequate capital to go ahead and do several projects. Now, what we're in here now is this typical water industry process where we're going to check things out and engineering and so forth. We actually have a very good team on it. Mark Mazaket, who now works for Dan Early, is extremely detail-oriented, very professional engineer. He recently joined Modular Water Systems, and he's being very responsive. So that Mexico project is moving along quickly. Also, we have the latest update, literally from today, is that we are hoping to get a housing development project done in the Dallas area. And that may actually happen sooner rather than later, because we have to get it. We have to get people who themselves, are on fire, right? Because again, the water industry is typically not on fire. So how do we sort of get this thing going? We think this particular partner is going to be very responsive. And I need to be able to work with a partner who's going to move as fast as we are, because we got these funds. We want to start generating royalties. It's very, very important. I believe it's going to happen. We've found the right partner. Okay, so what's coming up soon? As I say, the first Waterman project, I believe I'm going to be able to put together a partnership with this. I don't want to get into specifics because I don't want to get out over my skis, as they say. Secondly, there is the upcoming launch of that hotel that I keep talking about. That's been going on forever, but the system's in place, working fine, everything's great, and now we're just organizing the actual launch activities. We've done all the marketing work, and then as I was saying, we have the second hotel already being set up to go as well. So that's moving along fast. I hope to be able to announce that as well. Okay, now let me just, there's been a lot of comments here. Michael Hardison wanted to know what's up with the Pondster. Okay, so remember, this was that very important pilot of this new technology using a nanoceramic. And what's happened is that continues to be its own pilot. We are continuing to install. We've got our second mobile home park. You saw one of the units being toured in that video today that's going to a mobile home park, but it's using conventional reverse osmosis and ultrafiltration type technology. So we got a parallel path here. It's always slower with new technology. So this one site, great people, wonderful people, SunTrace Mobile Home Park in Troy, Alabama, very, very supportive. They're working with us closely. And the opportunity there is to spend much less on the project than the conventional way. That continues to be worked on. It's making progress, but that hasn't stopped us from using conventional methods to keep going with the mobile home parks. That's where that stands. Stefan Davis says, I'm in Utah. Let me know if I can help with the residential project proposed in my state. Very good. We will hook you up if you would send an email to invest@originclear.com, we will hook you up with the partner, which is Ivan, actually, is working on this. He's not directly working on it, but he turned us on to the gentleman who is doing the project. And so we'd love to have your help. So thank you for that. Okay, so lots of good projects going there. I hope it wasn't too dry. I hope you weren't too distracted by this guy Riggs doing 12 different things during the project. Ivan says that he will be in Utah in November, so maybe that can be pulled together. With that, I'm going to move into the free-willing discussion. Da-da-da. Mr. Ken Berenger.
A very brief free-willing discussion. We've had so much information going in there that, but so I in responding to the comment, so it's so funny. We've been doing this now for 4 years. These CEO briefings, right?
Oh, God. Yeah, really.
When we first did it, remember back when people did these on telephone? We did them on telephones for like a year and a half, and now we have this great Zoom technology. But we were talking about all of the things that we wanted to do. Now we're talking about all this stuff we're doing. The evolution that we've gone through as a business and as a company is absolutely astonishing. I just look at, I go in the Wayback Machine and I look at these old videos of us, and it's just like the messaging has been identical for years. We're going to do this, but it was kind of like, we were figuring out how. Now we have more business than we can stand. Someone mentioned about water. You talked about with Ivan about as an investable asset. Here's something that kind of came to me in a minute. So water is one of the most ubiquitous elements on Earth, right? I mean, 2/3 of our planet. But clean water is astonishingly rare. In fact, the water that is brought to the state that you described in the one hotel, the ultra filtered. I believe that you used a term. There was a micron down to 2 microns.
0.2.
0.2 microns. Okay, so water brought to that state free of PFAS right now. A gallon of water in that state on this planet is rarer than platinum, I would say, in many ways. Also, the fact that it keeps us all alive. So when you think about, we can create water in a state that is rarer than some of the most precious elements on Earth. That's exciting.
Well, the 0.2 micron actually is that's too thick. That's too big. So that's what we installed. We made a decision to not treat the forever chemicals that went into just regular water use. But the cooking water, the drinking water, that is it's zero microns, nothing, zero.
Right. And water in that state in this world right now, as it stands, that doesn't exist. There is no water that's in that state naturally. We've screwed the pooch because 80% of rainwater has the glyphosates, et cetera. Right. I'm going to be wrapping it up because we've managed to use up our time again. But there's been a debate going on in chat about reject water. Now, when you do reverse osmosis, which means you're squeezing water through a screen basically with a lot of pressure, you're left with 25 to 50% of it is waste. And where does that go? Now there are ways to then reuse it, reprocess it, do all kinds of things to it. Here's the rub. Many customers are not willing to pay for those additional reuse steps. So we have the technology. Remember that we do what the customer is willing to pay for. Sure. Reverse osmosis yields very, very pure water, but the reject water typically has more brine, more solids, et cetera. When you try to reuse it, it's more expensive because it's more dirty. And it's kind of like a pure example of the dirty. It's a purer example.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Concentrated dirty.
It's concentrated dirty, right.
So part of it is there's going to have to be more and more awareness of the need for saving. And in California, they have a big awareness. In Mississippi, less so. So that's kind of how it is. All right. Well, it's 9 p.m. And I really wanted to thank you all for coming on board. And it's been amazing to have you guys and gals stick around so much and so long. I know that the water industry stuff is like, what the heck? It's kind of dry. But this is the acetizing of water. taking it from government and pulling it out and then monetizing its treatment, which helps government because it reduces the load and it permits recycling. Those are the
And
two.
addressing Coletta's thing, creating more clean, pure water makes it less rare, makes it less like the world chasing after the same few gallons of clean water. There's a saying, Macron said today that the age of abundance is over. Okay. Abundance creates peace, right? Shortages create strife. What we're going to try to create is an abundance of clean water.
And by the way, it is not the end of abundance. That's a myth.
I agree.
Technology
I didn't say it was right. I just said
invention can solve problems that regulation cannot. But that's a story for another day. I want to thank everyone. Stefan Davis says, thanks for a great session. Robert Baxter, great job, guys. Thank you, everyone, for being on board. It's been a great show. I will get into many more next. I've been piling up all these geopolitical things about inflation and so forth. So I just can't get around to them. I promise you I will. So
we did do the oc.gold/Ken.
And I will do that page right now. Here it is.
And are we going to talk about what we're changing, or are we going to wait till next week?
Yeah. So we're out of time, but the investing offer is going to be shortened. So we can't get into it. Talk to Ken because we're reducing the leverage, reducing the scope, and it's all happening in real
Dramatically
time.
reducing the size.
Amen. So talk to Ken. oc.gold/Ken gets you in touch. Thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you to Ivan for a wonderful interview, and we'll be continuing that. And peace, kindness, joy, love, and happiness, as they used to say. Take care, and good night.
All right. Good night.